Summer hits and the lawn starts looking rough, and most people immediately go into fix-it mode. They water more, fertilize, mow shorter, grab whatever product is on the shelf at the hardware store. And a lot of the time, that response makes things significantly worse than doing nothing at all. The problem is not usually the heat itself. Lawns are tougher than people give them credit for. The problem is almost always the decisions made in the first few weeks of hot weather that cause damage that takes the rest of the season to undo. This covers the 5 most common mistakes homeowners make once temperatures climb, why each one causes the kind of harm it does, and what to do differently without spending much money or changing your whole routine. Before we get into it, if you want a complete guide that covers everything you need to maintain a healthy lawn without wasting money on products and services you do not actually need, we put together a book that has saved our readers an average of $1,000 a year in lawn care costs. It is linked in the description and pinned in the comments. Every video on this channel is built around the same idea, saving you money and helping you get a better lawn at the same time. So if that is useful to you, subscribe and you will not miss anything. Now let's get into the 5 mistakes. Watering a lawn during the hottest part of the afternoon is one of those habits that feels productive but accomplishes almost nothing. When air temperatures are at their peak, usually somewhere between 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon depending on your region, the combination of direct sunlight and hot dry air pulls moisture off grass blades and out of the top layer of soil before it has any real chance of reaching the root zone. The roots are where grass actually drinks. Everything happening at the surface level in midday heat is essentially wasted effort. You are running your irrigation system or dragging a hose around the yard, and most of what you put down is gone before it penetrates more than an inch into the ground. Early morning is the correct time to water, and the science behind this is straightforward. Soil temperatures are lower in the morning, which means less evaporation. Air humidity is generally higher at that hour, which slows surface drying further. The water has time to move downward through the soil profile and reach the depth where grass roots are actively growing, typically 4 to 6 inches down in a healthy lawn. Watering in the morning also gives the grass blades themselves time to dry off before nightfall, which matters because wet blades sitting in darkness overnight create ideal conditions for fungal disease. Brown patch, dollar spot, and several other common lawn diseases spread much faster on grass that stays wet through the night, so morning irrigation avoids that problem entirely. If early morning is genuinely not an option due to schedule or irrigation setup, late evening is a distant second choice, and midday should be avoided as a default. The water you save by shifting the timing is enough to matter on a monthly water bill, and the grass responds noticeably better within a few weeks of making the change. One more detail on this. When you do water, water deeply and less frequently rather than a little bit every day. Light daily watering trains roots to stay near the surface because the moisture never goes anywhere else. Deep, infrequent watering forces roots to follow the moisture downward, and deeper roots survive heat stress far better than shallow ones. Twice a week, at a volume that puts roughly an inch of water on the lawn, is a solid target for most cool season grasses in summer. Warm season grasses like Bermuda and Zoysia are more drought tolerant and can often go longer between waterings once they are established. There is a common instinct to fertilize a struggling lawn. The grass looks pale, weak, or thin, and fertilizer seems like the obvious solution. During extreme heat, applying high nitrogen fertilizer to dormant or heat-stressed turf is one of the fastest ways to cause visible, lasting damage. Nitrogen in a synthetic fertilizer is salt-based. When soil temperatures are high and the grass is already under stress, those salt compounds draw moisture out of root tissue rather than feeding the plant. The result is fertilizer burn, which shows up as yellow or brown streaks and patches that look like the lawn dyed in lines, following wherever the fertilizer was applied. The timing of fertilization matters as much as the product. Cool season grasses, which include fescue, bluegrass, and ryegrass, should receive their main fertilizer applications in early spring and again in early fall, when soil temperatures are in the range of 50 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That is when cool season grass is actively growing and can actually use what you put down. Fertilizing in July or August forces growth during a period when the grass is trying to conserve energy, and that artificially stimulated growth requires more water than the roots can pull in during heat stress conditions. Warm season grasses like Bermuda, Zoysia, Centipede, and St. Augustine are different. They actively grow in summer heat and can handle moderate nitrogen applications through the warm months. But even those grasses should not be fertilized during a drought or when daytime temperatures are consistently above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The grass needs to be actively growing and adequately watered before fertilizer does anything useful. If you have made it this far, you are clearly someone who actually cares about getting their lawn right and not just throwing money at the problem. That is exactly what this channel is about. Hit subscribe so the next video comes to you automatically. A soil test before fertilizing in any season will tell you what is actually missing in your lawn, rather than having you guess. Soil tests through your local cooperative extension service usually cost between $10 and $20, and take the guesswork out of the entire process. Cutting grass short in the summer to reduce how often mowing needs to happen seems like a reasonable time saver. It is one of the more damaging things a homeowner can do to a lawn in hot weather. When grass is cut below its recommended height, the soil underneath it loses the shade that the grass canopy provides. Exposed soil heats up faster, dries out faster, and becomes less hospitable to the root system trying to survive below it. Grass cut too short also has less leaf area available for photosynthesis, which means the plant is producing less energy at exactly the time it needs the most energy reserves to cope with heat and drought. The recommended mowing height for most cool season grasses during summer is between 3 and 4 inches. Tall fescue and bluegrass generally do best kept closer to 3.5 to 4 inches in summer heat. Warm season grasses have lower recommended heights. Bermuda is typically kept between 1 and 2 inches, zoysia between 1 and 2.5, but even those grasses should be kept at the higher end of their range during periods of extreme heat. If the lawn has gotten significantly longer than it should be, do not cut it back to the target height in one session. Removing more than 1/3 of the grass blade at a time puts the plant into stress and causes the same kind of visible damage as cutting too short from the start. Raise the mowing deck to the highest setting for the first cut, then bring it down gradually over 2 or 3 mowing sessions spaced a week apart. Sharp mower blades also matter considerably more in summer than most people realize. A dull blade tears the grass rather than cutting it cleanly, and torn grass ends lose moisture faster and are more susceptible to disease entry. Sharpening the mower blade once in spring and once mid-season is usually enough to stay ahead of this problem. Cool season grass in summer heat often goes dormant. The blades turn tan or brown, growth stops, and the lawn looks like it is dying. Most homeowners respond to this by overwatering, applying fertilizer, or both. Dormancy is a survival mechanism, not a sign that anything has gone wrong. The crown of the grass plant, which sits just below the soil surface, stays alive through dormancy even when all of the visible green growth has died back. When temperatures drop in fall and soil moisture returns, the grass comes back from the crown without any intervention. The mistake that causes real, lasting damage during dormancy is applying any product to the lawn that the grass cannot currently process. Herbicides applied to dormant grass can be absorbed unevenly and cause injury that becomes visible later in the season when the grass tries to come out of dormancy and cannot recover certain patches. Fungicides and insecticides applied at rates appropriate for actively growing grass can be too concentrated for dormant turf. The best approach to a dormant lawn is to leave it alone as much as possible. If you want to keep it from going fully dormant, about 1 inch of water per week will typically hold cool season grass in an active green state through summer, but that is a commitment you have to maintain consistently. Starting supplemental irrigation, stopping for 2 weeks during a vacation, then starting again, can stress the grass more than allowing it to go dormant in the first place. Foot traffic on dormant grass also causes more damage than foot traffic on actively growing grass, because the crowns are less resilient without the protection of healthy blade growth above them. If the lawn has areas that get heavy use in summer, allowing those areas to go dormant and then restricting foot traffic is a reasonable approach. Weeds in summer are genuinely frustrating, and the instinct to spray them as soon as they appear makes sense. Applying herbicides when air temperatures are consistently above 85 degrees Fahrenheit creates 2 problems at the same time. The first is that most post-emergent herbicides become more volatile in high heat, meaning they vaporize faster after application and can drift onto nearby plants, garden beds, or neighboring lawns where they were never intended to go. The second is that heat-stressed grass absorbs herbicide differently than healthy, actively growing grass, which means the margin between the dose that kills the weed and the dose that injures the lawn gets much narrower in hot weather. Selective herbicides like those containing 2004-D, triclopyr, or mecoprop are designed to affect broadleaf plants without harming grass, but that selectivity depends on the grass being in a healthy and actively growing state. A lawn already stressed by heat has reduced metabolic activity, and the enzymes that normally help grass break down and tolerate herbicide compounds are working more slowly. The practical result is that summer herbicide applications lead to more frequent turf injury than the same products applied in spring or fall at the same rates. If a weed problem cannot wait, late evening application when temperatures have dropped below 85 degrees gives the product more time to absorb into the weed before the next day's heat arrives, and before volatilization becomes a significant factor. Spot treating individual weeds rather than broadcasting across the entire lawn reduces the exposure area and limits the chance of widespread turf injury. For most weed pressure, a fall herbicide application will be more effective and cause less stress to the lawn than fighting weeds through the hottest weeks of summer. These 5 mistakes are easy to make because they all feel like reasonable responses to a lawn that looks stressed. The lawn looks rough, so you water it more, fertilize it, mow it down, and try to clear out the weeds while you are at it. What lawns actually need during extreme heat is mostly restraint. Water early and deeply instead of constantly. Hold off on nitrogen fertilizer until temperatures come back down. Keep the mowing height up and the blades sharp. Respect dormancy rather than fighting it. Save herbicide applications for when conditions are right rather than when the frustration peaks. Most lawns that look terrible by August are fully capable of recovering in September and October without any major intervention if the summer damage has not been compounded by the responses to it.